Hey, real quick, make sure you subscribe, like, and follow this podcast anywhere you're listening to it. You can leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That kind of stuff really helps us out, so we appreciate it there. You can follow us on Instagram at Gear and Beer Podcast. If you like the music that you hear in this episode, there will be links to my music anywhere that you're checking it out in the show notes as well. So until next time, enjoy the podcast, keep jamming, and we'll see you.
Gear and Beer.
Welcome back to Gear and Beer. Today we got with us Gtar Phil. Phil, thanks for making the trek, coming to hang out, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob.
Get this
My pleasure, my brother.
fixed. This podcast is just a string of technical difficulties caught on film, typically.
Dude, that's pretty much what we all doing.
That was a super fun jam. That I don't think we've ever had anything as like interactive. It's usually like trading, and so typically there's an engineer.
Yeah.
The main engineer's wife had surgery today, and the guy that was going to fill in for him has a 3-week-old baby, and so that didn't work out either.
It's called out the game.
Typically, I like to get somebody to do that
Yeah.
so that I don't screw something up, because it would not be the first time that I accidentally didn't record video or audio or something stupid.
Tell
but
me
I can
about
see that it's all recording, so we
Yeah.
do off to a good start.
There you go, man. I understand. I've been a one-man show myself, so I get it.
Yeah, well, as we were talking about earlier, like, just gets crazy sometimes, especially in the summer when everybody's in the throes of travel and rehearsal and
Tell me about it, man.
all that stuff.
Yeah, man.
You talking about you're fixing to move and all that?
No, man. So
I do
much
not
going
envy
on.
that, having done it a year ago.
Right.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
What else is happening with you, man? What's going on?
Oh, man. Well, 23 has been a crazy year. It has been a crazy year. It's one of those years that you pray for that year, then it gets here, you go, wait a minute, I don't know what I pray for. It's because it's not about it all like, oh, so much good stuff is happening, I'm overwhelmed. No, because with the good comes the crazy.
For sure.
I mean, like you can't have peaks if you don't have valleys. They're just not. They're not peaks anymore.
Right.
If you don't,
It's like living in LA and you don't get the seasons. It's like, it's not good weather anymore. It's just outside or inside.
That's it. I love the way you put that, man. That's how it is. And the 4 seasons are all beautiful. So I'm in this situation where, well, not situation, just living life where it's the roller coaster. And it's like, whoa, but that's what happens when it gets crazy. When it gets good and crazy, then you're holding on for dear life a couple of times. And then when you look back at it, you go like, oh, that made sense. But, it's so my summer's been, my 23 has been a whole bunch of that. Really? Started off like cussing at the sky and then, literally the next day going like, what? And it's been a ton of that.
Like scheduling kind of issues. That's typically where I find the roller coaster the most. It's like all of a sudden I'm having to curate several other people's schedules as well as my own, and trying to take into account my life.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the big things that keeps happening to me is every time I commit to doing a certain amount of time for myself, I mean, it's the classic, tell everybody you have a week that's not busy. The easiest way to kill an empty week is to tell people that you have that week off.
Yeah.
It's been that type of thing, man, I had all this time kind of carved out for me, and it's not there anymore. And you almost get ready because you go like, oh, I know how stuff comes. So you go, all right, I'm prepared for that if it comes, and then you get a bowling ball that comes from the sky, and you go like, wait a minute, that wasn't part of the things that we had trained for.
Right.
So now I got a whole new thing to kind of look out for, and yeah, at the end of the day, no matter how you put it, I lost all the time I was trying to spend for myself. So,
well, cheers to regaining that time at a certain point.
Yeah, boom, boom. But it's not the worst.
Well, no, because at the very least, you're fielding opportunity as opposed to searching for and
there you go.
For.
There, yeah, and I have some people that I do know that have been saying, "Hey, man, if you know of anything," that typically hasn't been the thing I've been dealing with too much. So,
well, that's good. Yeah. I feel like every other January or February, it'll be pretty thin. It wasn't really the case for me this year,
right?
But it was last year.
Yeah. So you're like, maybe next year,
and I'll be fine with that,
bro. It's kind of like
I'm okay with staying at my house. I
got things to do.
I've been here for 2 straight weeks, over 2 weeks and 2 days, and that's the longest amount of time I've spent at my house since March, I think.
Good for you, man.
And
cool.
I got one more whole week, and then it's back to traveling and crazy.
Yeah, you're losing it. Yeah.
All my gear's finally getting fixed. I had a string of like everything was breaking, and I still got something weird going on my baseboard. I sent my API DI back to somebody, not to somebody, to API, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with this. And then I get it back and I turn on the compression and it's going zzz. It's like, well, I try isolating it and sometimes it doesn't do it. And so I don't know if it's a cable. I have swapped cables. Maybe it's a pedal. Maybe it's the power supply.
Yeah, I think it's the power.
Maybe it's the power cables.
Did you change the power, the plug that it was going in?
Nope.
Try that, because I know that happened to me, and the plug, the actual the DC had gone bad.
Like the ground or something broke off on one of the inputs?
Yeah, the DC, it just that one terminal went bad, and they actually just gave me a new power supply because of it. I just traded in. They gave me a new one because it was like warranted. So they were like, hey, here.
And this is a pedal power too, which was a great product 20 years ago when it was like the only thing on the market.
Yeah.
But it's not suited for today's pedal platforms with the high milliamperage settings and all that stuff. And
get a True Tone. Get a True Tone CS12. You will be so happy.
Okay. Well, I got the Phoenix in this thing, and I like the Phoenix.
What's the Phoenix? Who makes that?
Walrus.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen theirs.
And Walrus customer service is maybe the best of anyone that I've dealt with.
I've never had to ask, but everything they make I love. So
I've got this Monument, and they make this in a smaller footprint now, and I haven't compared the two. I'm sure it sounds really good. Just the idea of the smaller footprint is something that I'm into these days.
Yeah, right.
I fit a bunch more crap on there.
There you go. Like you need it,
Yeah, for sure.
Sheesh.
Well, the way I look at it, especially when I'm playing that PRS with those pickups as feedbacky as they are, and I like having that control over the sustain, but I can stack overdrives certain ways where it kind of negates it a little bit, and then other times I'm like, I want it.
Yeah,
I just
wide
want
open.
It to sing.
Yeah, man. There's nothing like stacking overdrives, dude. I didn't realize that was such a Nashville thing. I thought everybody did that.
I did that in Dallas, but I was playing in a lot of country bands, and my best bud and one of my tone icons, Boo Massey, he was doing tons of country sessions back in Dallas. He lives in Arizona now, but he lives in Arizona and plays for Miranda Lambert, and they're all based here. But he he unlocked a lot of tone doors for me. It's like I always knew what I wanted it to sound like, and then I showed up on a gig where I was playing bass and he's playing guitar, and he had a matchless C30, and I was like,
Right
"There's
there, man.
that sound."
That's it, right there.
So then I got one. But
Yeah, man. What year is that?
that one is 2010.
Oh, okay.
2011. I recently sold. I came into a Samson era one, and I sold it. Honestly, it did sound a little different, but I didn't swap glass from amp to amp,
Yeah.
so I probably tubes, but it didn't sound enough different to keep the more valuable
Exactly.
one. When I
Yeah,
could
if
sell
you're
that
not
one.
you're not gonna take it out. So
Yeah, and I sold it to for a fair price to a good dude and a guy that I still talk to I didn't know before, and that's always cool too. And make new homies, guitar homies.
man. There you go. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be in the market to get ahead. Yeah, C30.
I mean, it's really heavy,
Oh yeah, all that iron, bro.
but it is freaking built like a tank, man.
Yep.
I was playing with a guy. We went to play this gig in Chicago, and we were unloading. We went up there in an Escalade, and he was a sloppy dude, and there was like gear and luggage and spare tire and all kind of crap in the back end. And I went out to get something out of the back, and he had set his head on top of some clothes, and it rolled up against the door. So that thing just came tumbling out, and we carried it inside, plugged it in, it turned on, it was fine. We didn't even check the tubes or nothing. Just turned it on, it worked.
Jeez. Yeah.
Somebody, I think he got it from Guthrie, and he got it from somebody else, and it had like a weird, almost like bedlinery kind of a Tolex going on. It's pretty weird. Probably kept it from tearing, but
Yeah, man. Those are great amps. So.
I digress. Yep. So, is this the board that you fly with?
It has been since March. I started flying with it. I was carrying my big board.
Were you?
Yep, I have a board from Mono that I was carrying, and I realized I just didn't need to carry that much stuff because of the artist I was playing with at the time. I just didn't need to carry all that. I was doing the same thing every night, and the H90, I've got that H90, and that really changed a lot for me. Even though it's basically the idea of two H9s, it's really more than that.
Sure.
And it's so powerful. That became like my entire like modulation time.
Anything other than drive, pretty much.
And
I'm
it's
sure.
got some amazing drive stuff in there.
Does it
too.
really?
It does. It's got some really cool stuff. But
I've not heard any of that.
It's got some really cool stuff in there. And it's because it's different. It's not like, oh, okay, I would use that instead of a drive pedal. It just has its own thing.
The new texture.
Yeah, and
a new color to paint with.
It's really great. But I don't really use it for that. I use it for the standard things, and kind of was running it through the effects loop of my amp, and then just running a few drive pedals.
So you run it through the effects loop?
Definitely.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, because I play the third power Willie Coach.
Right.
The effects loop on that amp is like heavenly. So
the 4-cable method then is essentially what you're doing.
Oh yeah, because it makes a difference. It's like most amps I would not run it through. Most stuff I play, I just run it through the front. But on that amp, it sounds so great and gives you this whole other texture, and allows your reverbs and your delays to sit like they would like if you were doing an aux send on Pro Tools.
So then, what do you come out of? You come out of one of the drives, or you come out of the volume last?
Come on the volume last.
So the volume is after the drive, so that you can saturate and then adjust.
That's right. Because I want that same level of gain and thrust and tone, and that way I'm not redundant by using two gain volumes. I have a master volume and gain.
Then you can use your guitar to clean it up.
To be the gain to clean it up. Yeah,
that's probably a pretty good way for me to run my volume pedal. I haven't been using it lately just because for whatever reason I haven't been, but
cleans up your tone too.
And I feel like because again, I used my volume knob before, and
Of course.
so it does in fact seem redundant. Although the one that I have, Justin Butler's company, 3-tone, he built this circuit, and it's like a really good buffer for if
Yep.
you got a long run of cable or something like that, and
that's
it's
a great
got
one.
like I think it's an impedance knob, but really it's essentially working like a cable tone simulation.
Yep.
If you wanted to sound like a long run of cable, you turn it
Wow.
down. If you want it to sound like there's no cable, you turn it up, and it's like full spectrum of
Wow. Yeah.
You get those shiny tops and those very low bottoms back.
I might need to get one of those. That
It's
sounds.
it's basically his upgrades to an Ernie Ball VP Junior.
Yeah.
He's got an indestructible string that he contracted out somebody to make,
Yeah.
and then he's got his own circuit. Oh,
I need to.
I'll find it. I'll show
I
it to you.
definitely need
And
to.
it's got a
that sounds like
cool
something
light
I
on
need
it.
to have. Yeah, because I'm a big volume guy. On my bigger board, I still put the volume after all of my tone based stuff.
Okay.
Because it acts like a poor man's effects loop, and it allows you to get all of your tone stuff first, and you're separating all your time and modulation based stuff afterwards. Because I put all those effects afterwards.
I'm gonna have to start running. I'm gonna have to try the effects loop because I obviously been playing that Woolly Coats as
Yeah.
well, and I've never used an effects loop. I've just never done it.
Well, most amps they sound terrible. I'm not gonna lie, because it's an afterthought.
Sure.
But Delana made sure that it's one of those things. I did it, and it's like all this air and all this breath. You're like, that's what I always wanted to sound like, but I was just too afraid to try. And it happened because they told me, everyone at Third Power said, try the effects loop, just give it a run. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, because I still get all the juicy drive stuff, and however, sweet and sustaining I want my,
You get to interact with the front of your amp without any
without tripping
any
over
wetness.
itself. Yeah. And I still got the awesome reverb in the amp too.
Sure.
So it really kind of has more of that mixing board effect to it. It's really nice, man. Yeah.
I like the way that reverb sounds. I don't. Oh, excuse me. I don't typically like to use amp reverb on a gig because I want it to change, and walking back and forth to the amp a bunch of times is not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Or if I can just bend down and
Right.
do that, or I can just have a bunch of different settings.
There you go. Even better.
That is a smarter way to do it, I suppose. I accidentally did something smart. That's not the story of my life.
Man, tell me about it.
What is this white pedal on the far end?
That's a third. Man, this is turning into a Third Power commercial for me. That is their pedals called the Love Drive, and it's based off of a Distortion.
Okay.
And it's got drive, level, bass, mid, and treble. But the crazy thing about it is all of the controls are active.
Oh, okay.
And Delana showed me, she hooked it up to an oscilloscope and showed me, hey, I can pretty much get the waveform of any amp or pedal that I want. Like, hey, here's a Marshall. This is what a Marshall waveform looks like. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make that with this pedal.
Interesting.
And I did, and I was like, whoa. And okay, you want a Dumble? Boom. Now, the reason I really like that pedal, if I got an amp that doesn't sound great, it'll make it
hit
sound,
the front of it and change
and it kind of sounds like a Third Power. But then when I play it in front of a great amp or a Third Power amp, it like interacts with the circuit, and it really can kind of get in there. It doesn't sit on top, and it's not a preamp. It kind of gets in the circuit. So if I want to influence the amp to be a little more American than it is, or a little more British, and when I say British, I'm mainly meaning Marshall-y,
Sure.
or a little more Dumble-y, I can actually just start messing with the interactive controls. And then if I just need to get a little more girth, I'll just start playing with that drive a bit. And it just tiny little increments, it does a lot. And the way that those things interact.
Is that what you were using for the jam? Is that where your game was coming from?
Some of it, yeah. And then I turned on the Timmy for a second.
Oh, okay.
And then, but see, the thing is, that's the other great thing about it's a really nerdy pedal, man. I'm not gonna lie, it's a super nerdy pedal because it plays really great with other pedals. It influences other pedals in a fun way. So it's like, man, I have a pedal that I like a lot, but I wish it could just a little. That's what that does.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those things like I'm probably going to get a second one just to put on the big board and keep it because they told me that they were like, yeah, you could actually have two of them and you can have one in pre and one in post. And it just, because you can make them do different things. And I kind of test. It's one of those pedals, no matter what board I have, I make sure I take it with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's up. I've not played one of those. I'm going to have to check it out.
Super fun, yeah. Give it a ride.
And then what's this Olympus? I don't know that one either.
Oh, yeah, the Olympus. That's from Mythos.
Oh,
You know Zach?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Mythos.
Yeah. So this one is, I can't remember the name of the circuit that it is, but it's a circuit that they came up, that they kind of emulated from a pedal that's no longer made, but it's basically like a Klon without the harshness. So it's a Klon that's got a little more air,
a light organic overdrive kind of a thing.
It's very Klonish. It can get just as loud like a Klon. It can get really forward like a Klon and really big, but it doesn't have that like kind of brassiness that Klons tend to.
The thing that I don't like about them.
Yeah, where you're going like, oh my God, it's so loud, but everything needs to be loud for me to love it. Like you can kind of sweeten it up a bit. So it soars. It's like a Klon that soars. So like it's kind of like I think one of the famous sounds was John Mayer using the tube screamer with a Klon, and it's kind of more of that in one.
That makes sense because the Klon does to the tube screamer what the tube screamer so desperately cannot do.
Right. So
my impression of a tube screamer is always this. This is what a tube screamer sounds like.
Yeah.
And I guess this would be a Klon.
Right. So together,
they match
it's kind of like them together. You get the mid hump, you get that. I just call it more like a mid sweetener, and then those highs and the overdrives a little softened, so you get that give that you're gonna get from a tube screamer, but you get that punch that just punches you like really in the throat at the same time. So it's a really great overdrive to kind of have like, hey, I need to get loud and I need to get big and ballsy.
So do you use it kind of as a boost in that scenario?
I can. Yeah, it depends. It depends on what like song it's for. Sometimes it might be my biggest distortion. Sometimes I might use it as kind of like, okay, I really put balls on this thing for some boost. So it can kind of be grindy. It kind of has multi-facets to it. Yeah, even with just the three little knobs. But it's a really cool pedal. And it's one of those things like, man, it just kind of sounds good on everything. Yeah, so. Yeah, Zach did a really cool thing with that one.
Yeah, I know some dudes that have the Mjolnir or whatever.
Yeah. That's their Klon.
Yeah, it's like this Klon and something else. Like it leans, I forget what the other, tone shape is.
Yeah.
But my buddy Eddie put this pedal out with Masai guitars called the Eddie Boost Drive, and it's got LED and germanium, I believe, clipping with a switch, and the boost is just a knob, but it's also super interactive. And then you got
what's that?
Basically on the tube screamer part, you got the tube screamer, except for you've got middle, bass, and treble control. You can tone shape, and it does a lot of different stuff. And he like went through the trouble of putting together some prints of different kinds of things in a booklet and the thing.
I love when guys do that. So what is that? What's the toggle switch? I love toggle switch.
Yeah, so that's between the clipping modes.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay.
And
okay,
like
LED.
what's cool about it is like
sweet.
So you can tell
you're in
just by the color.
Germanium and oh, that is so cool.
That way, if it's on it's dark on stage or something, you can tell. If you go back and forth, I typically just kind of set it and forget it. That's kind of my deal for the most part.
Yeah. A lot of stuff I'm more set it and forget it. Where are those made? Where's that made? Messiah
Guitars. I don't know where. I don't know where they're manufactured, to be honest. Eddie lives here. Well, he lives in like Lebanon. He's been on the podcast before.
Nice.
But we did a specific podcast dedicated to that pedal when it came out.
Oh, I need to go listen.
And as a result, he gave me and Lyndon, the guy at Typical Engineering, and RJ Ronquillo we're the only ones that have this particular color, and they won't make any more of this color.
Very nice.
So, and they got our names are on it or whatever. So that was kind of like a super cool thing that they did for us. But he got that pedal out there and like into the hands of people who do influence like gear opinions online, but they would also tell them if they didn't like it, kind of people.
Yeah.
So like he got some real good feedback, and I didn't hear anybody that had anything negative to say about it.
That's great.
I'm not a tube screamer guy, but that pedal is way more than a tube screamer.
Well, most the tube screamers I think that are successful these days are tube screamer pluses. If it does a tube screamer and goes over, because there's still a place, in the fusion world. Tube screamers still a thing.
It works great with a Fender amp circuit, because of the shape of the scoopiness, lack of mids, and it brings those mids.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons it worked so well with Stevie Ray's Supers back in the day, and Vibra King or whatever. Not Vibra King, but
was
that what it's called, Vibra King?
No, he wasn't playing the Vibra King. He played no, he didn't play Bandmaster either.
It was a super into that Leslie, that Music Man Leslie.
Yeah, he had a super, he had the super, and then he had a Super 6 as well, but I don't know how long he played the Super 6. But
I don't either.
And then he was playing the Steel String Singer.
Yeah, right. And that's the classic one for sure.
Deer and beer.
So I was listening to the links that you sent me earlier today, and that's some killer music. What's the name of the band? The Chank?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Gtar Phil and the Chank. Yeah. So that's my larger band.
Okay.
So I've got that, and then I've got my trio.
Right. That's what I saw at the electric guitar pickup. Or what was that event called?
Yeah,
East Nashville Electric Guitar Pickup?
Yeah.
Pop-up.
There it is. There you go.
That's a term that makes some actual sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I was, before the pandemic, I was, doing my full band, the Chank. So Gtar Phil and the Chank. So, funky guitar playing. Chank. And I had a few guys who had done some stuff with Motown. They were like, "Man, we're gonna call you the Chank, boy." And I played with them, some of the OGs, and that's what they started calling me. So my manager at the time was like, "Yeah, you're gonna need a name for your act to go along with Gtar Phil." And I was thinking about it, and it hit me, the Chank. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I've been kind of rocking that. So,
well, what is the how would you describe that project? To me, it sounds. I hear elements of a funk, of church, like old, like quartet, and like aggressive blues, I guess I would say. Like what's the is that just what Phil's heart sounds like, or are you going for a thing?
Man, at the time that was kind of my first foray into me writing, and I've been writing a long time, but just kind of more of me really playing the guitar and writing it all together. So I wasn't locked in on a style as much as I am now.
Sure.
I'm a lot more honed in to what I want to do.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was just I was journaling where I was. That's all I really was doing. I was like,
That's a great way to describe something like that.
And I was trying to be honest about, hey man, this is where I'm at in my journey, and this is my diary, and I want to tell the truth every time I'm writing about it. And so I literally picked from 20 songs down to those 5. So it was like, all right, these are the truest ones to where I'm at, and this is what we feel like is gonna make the cut for right now.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, all those kind of seem to resonate with different people for different things. So
It feels good, and I mean, if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't really matter what else it does for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, that's where I was, because those were 2018. The other one, Black Bodies, was 2021. That was, my response to the George Floyd thing. I actually wrote it in 2020. We just couldn't get it out till 21, just because we were doing a bunch of edits, and I wanted to get it right musically once we got moving.
I don't know if I listened to that one. I listened to that Worker Bee.
Yeah.
One of the links you sent.
Yeah. Worker Bee. You listen to that EP, right?
Yeah.
And then Black Bodies was like I said, that was my response to what was happening. Not with
There'll be links to all that in the show notes.
Okay, yeah. So. It wasn't just George Floyd. George Floyd was specific. That's what caused me to write it. At the time, I'd been very aware of what had been going on.
That was kind of like the what do they say? That was the straw for a lot of different people for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, so it was just like, I kind of went there with it, and even the solo at the end, it was 51 takes to get to that solo. It's a full take of its own, but it took me 51 takes to get there. And I remember when I finally cut it, my producer was like, where did you go when you finally hit that? He was like, where that one was different than all the other. Where'd you go? And I was like, yeah, I was thinking about the 846. And I was like, that I just told the story of the whole solo was like, I condensed it down to like a minute of that 846, when the whole confrontation with the cops and when he lost his life. So I kind of like condensed it down and replayed it on my guitar, and it has this eerie, crazy thing that's happening at the end. It's like gasping for breath at the end.
Well, now I really want to listen to that, because I didn't listen to that earlier, so I don't have the frame of reference, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that was that, and these are all parts of my journey musically, and where I'm at now is more honed in than both of those. I think the next batch of stuff I'm doing, trio or otherwise, I'm really centered on telling stories. Like that's what I've been trying to get to my whole career, like telling some stories, and I really feel like I feel like I'm somewhere where I can tell stories, and they're cohesive.
Sure.
Musically, they're my stories. They're stories from people who came before me, but they all have the thread of me musically. So that's part of the plan for.
I like the way you put it though about it's the paraphrasing, a snapshot of where you were musically at that time.
Absolutely.
I guess that's kind of what I do too, except for that's definitely not how I was thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I always think about it as just like, just an expression of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But how do I say it? it's instrumental music. So I'm not telling any story with lyrics. It's almost like trying to, like paint a mood.
Yeah.
Like the composers back in the day, like when polyphonic music started opening up and Bach and just like it, that's going to sound like I just tried to compare myself to Bach. It's not.
No. I don't think you're doing that. No. I listen to your stuff. No, you definitely. Painting was exactly what I was thinking of.
Just like it's such cliche terms like vibe and a texture and blah, but like that's honestly what it is. And I mean, sometimes they're contrasting. Other times it's like it'll be something as simple as I'll hit the wrong setting and it'll be a weird, and I'll be like, and it'll turn into something, and that's not that's like pretty like just surface value.
Sure.
The moment in time, a sound inspired me to do a thing.
Absolutely.
And I do a lot of songwriting with other people, lyrics included. Some of it just came out actually this week, and I'll be sure to link that with an artist, Dan Smiley, a buddy of mine. It's a country record, but it's like a rootsy country record, and takes a few chances and some real raw playing and well-crafted songs. I had the pleasure of writing a couple of them with him, but I have never put anything out with me singing. Although, when I go play my original instrumental music, I sing.
Yeah, you sound great too, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've seen your videos. Yeah, you sound great. It's just, singing and playing. I think guitar players have an advantage, man. I think we have an advantage that no other instrument, including piano players,
Please elaborate.
There's a connection between our voice and our instrument that I just don't think exists with any other instrument, because the guitar sounds closer to the voice than anything but a horn, but you can't sing and play horn at the same time.
That's true.
So therefore you can emote from two different sources as one source.
Yeah.
And there's just a connection. That's why when somebody who's a like okay guitar player but really good singer, you love them that much more, or both. And vice versa. If somebody's a great guitar player but an okay singer, they get the pass of life. Sure. Because you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like they carry each other because of that thing that it's this twin emotion that's coming out, and people are just like, I'm buying it. And you don't get that with piano players all the time, because you're going to like, you can hear, you're like,
there's a lot more options there.
You're like, they gotta suck, and you're like, they're just way more. And guitar's like harder. So, in some ways,
I don't know, man. I can play the guitar. I cannot play a piano to save my life, bro.
You know what? I should take that. I should say that the other way. I think the piano is harder. I can't play it. And I come from a family of piano players, and I'm like, dude, how in the world? I just think there's so much of a higher expectation, on it. In guitar, I think it's just easier.
The linear thing just doesn't work for my brain the same way.
Yeah.
It probably does if the right person broke it down to me the right way.
Right.
And then I spent, any time trying to get better at it. But guitar just makes sense. And stringed instruments, like even like a mandolin, it's not strung the same as a guitar.
But it just makes sense. But I can find my way around it.
Still some of the facility that I learned on the guitar that makes absolute translation. And there's things about it. The shapes and the stuff are a little different, and you just kind of have to almost think backwards.
Right. But it just feels learnable, right?
Yeah.
Like for some reason, the piano, even though I know things on the piano, it just doesn't feel learnable. Like it takes me forever to learn a thing on the piano, and I don't want to learn more of it. I'm just like, okay, I learned that thing. But guitar, I'm always.
It's a facility thing for me. It's like I've spent decades honing the guitar facility, and I have done nothing with piano. And so if I sit down to it, it's like it doesn't matter how smart or how good of an idea I have. I can't execute it. I can play chordy patty stuff, and I do, and on some of my stuff that I've
all
put
day,
out.
man. I'm producing my own self on there.
That's just the way it goes. But if there's a part where I'm like, this part needs to be a part, then I'm on the phone to somebody who's capable of said part because it ain't me.
Yeah, I got the basics. That's about it.
I can play chords if you give me long enough to figure them out.
Yeah. In 15 tries.
I got a buddy back in Dallas. He's an interesting cat, and he just he plays all these really close cluster chord voicings.
Crazy, man.
And plenty of people do that. There's just something about the way he plays chords that's different than most people that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And that just reminded me. He's like so far down the piano wormhole. There's nothing that's not within reach for him from classical to avant-garde jazz.
Yep.
Heavy metal he could do, and he's just a well-versed dude. Colin Campbell, shout out to Colin. He's actually playing with me. Last couple times I played back in Dallas, he had a certain schedule conflicts, and I ended up playing with a Dallas legend by the name of Eric Willis, who's like a dude I've been hearing about for my whole life as a professional musician.
Yeah.
Never saw him, never heard him. Just all these people I respect always spoke so highly of him. And then we played this gig last time I was in town. And
you found out.
I understand now.
Found out.
Yeah. So it was a positive negative. The homie couldn't do it, but I got to play with somebody else.
That's always great.
Actually, today was kind of a crazy day. There was 2 significant deaths in the Dallas music scene. Neither gentleman I know personally, but Daniel Jones and Perry Richardson. Daniel Jones, I know as a killing jazz piano player, but his gig, I think he's been Janet Jackson's MD for like 10 years or something.
Whoa!
I don't know what happened. I don't know if they were both together. I don't know the other gentleman at all, but I started getting texts today while I was walking the dog, and they're like, "I keep reading about blah blah blah. Do you know?" And I'm like, I got nothing. And I hit up my homie Wes, and he told me about Daniel. And I'm not prying. I'm not trying to get anybody's business. I didn't go try to figure out what happened or anything. If I'm supposed to know, somebody will tell me. But it's just terrible to her. I know for sure that Daniel has a young daughter and a wife.
And, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry to bring it down like that, but just thinking about Dallas piano players.
Yeah, man, that's the thing.
Daniel Jones, again, I didn't know personally, but there's like a really big aggressive improv modern jazz thing, not like swing, but like the Dallas, the snarky puppies.
Yeah, that's what brought
roots. Basically,
that's what brought it.
And I've seen Daniel sit in with the Funky Knuckles a bunch of times, and with back in the day when it was still Bernard Wright, another legend gone too soon.
Oh yeah.
And like that dude was killing.
Oh yeah, Bernard Wright. Oh no, I know.
Killing musician. I got
totally aware.
Very little experience. I think I sat in one time with him.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you're playing, you don't talk. I didn't meet the guy. We were sitting in together. It's too bad. Great musician. Hate to hear people leaving too soon or whatever.
Absolutely.
Again, sorry to bring the mood down a little there.
No, man, it's life. It's a circle of life.
No, you're right about that.
Yeah, man.
So do you have other works that are in the process?
I've got something.
Are you writing? Are you recording?
Yeah,
are you mixing?
I am writing and recording some new music now. I plan to put out 3 songs over the summer, and I wish I could announce the news, but I can't yet. So I've got something brewing pretty heavy.
That's dope.
But I won't be able to speak on it yet. So it's kind of impeded a little bit of my progress. But I still plan on putting out a few songs this summer. Got, got a month and a half to go to to get some stuff out. Definitely have a few things I want. If nothing, just me putting out a few songs, just to put more things out, content musically wise.
That's the modern landscape.
Yeah, which is actually a lot easier because I moved to Nashville when people were still like saying let's get together and make these records, and people with no budgets were still trying to make records that sound like they had budgets.
Yeah.
So it's hard to come out of that mindset where you're like, we're making a record.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute, but I've got all the stuff to make a record at home. So everything that we were calling demo, I can now do at home. Even though I've been doing that for years. I mean, it's like you do it and you actually get enough sense. You go like, yeah, but the demo sounded dope.
Well, and with digital distribution, like,
dude, it's getting crushed down anyway.
You ain't got to leave your house. You don't have to know anybody. You know, if you do your research, you can get you can get Reaper, for instance, is a DAW that is totally free and extremely capable if you are one to figure out and work those things out. There's definitely ways to release your music for free. There's probably a cap on how often you can do it.
Right.
And it's probably just longer than the algorithms like to see, or something to push you through the paywall.
Right.
But I mean, let's say you want to go through TuneCore and you want to get a professional account. For $50 a year, you can release as much music as you want.
And dude, $50 a year it's not. Come on, man. If you're
that's nothing.
Issuing,
they make their money on the kickback from socials, and I think they take 20%, but you get 100% of your royalties from the streams and the downloads.
Yep, DistroKid, all of those. So
yeah, CD Baby, DistroKid.
I'm good to go with that. I'm already set on there. It's just a matter of me releasing a few of these more songs because I've been doing it with a band so much. And doing it in studios and just, it's just, I still want to do that for the major pieces, but I can put out content in between. So
the way I look at it is I would love to only do live in studio capture for the instrumental stuff, especially.
Yeah.
But it's also cool, as you're saying, to do it the other way because you can still make a cool piece of art and capture a great musical idea and get it out. Like half the stuff that I put out already was recorded in the pandemic and just having homies like, hey, I know you're sitting at home. Dude, I've got this. Let me send you this. Play something and send it back to me.
It almost feels a little
get like same day turnaround.
Yeah, for people. In some ways, it's kind of more artistic because it's allowing people to make art. Versus be in the studio, okay, hey,
producing someone's performance.
Yeah, and I love that, but I almost feel like there's more pressure.
Sure.
There's more pressure with that because you're like, well, we really set up for it to be this thing, and you have this expectation on it when you do it like that. So you're already kind of setting yourself up to get your heart stomped on. But if you make it that way, you're just like, you put it out, and then those are the ones that end up flying.
Well, and there's the other thing of like, studio time costs money,
right there,
and you might be willing to settle for something just because you're thinking about the business side. Because as independent artists, even if you've got digital distribution deal or you've got like some sort of like agreement with an actual distributor for whatever, like you still have to, even if you've got a deal with a label, you still have to think about the economics of it because
got to think about it.
If you don't run your career like a business, then you won't have a career.
Yep. And that
or somebody else will have made all your money.
Yeah. And as an artist, that's the hard part.
Forget
for us.
all of that bullcrap.
Yeah, man. You get so caught up. I mean, we have to do that along with manage your social media and all that kind of stuff. Next thing you know.
And not to mention work gigs and make money.
Yeah. So by the time you got maybe 10% of your life left to be an artist, and that's when you're too drained. You drag a husk of yourself to the studio or to wherever it comes time to make, and then you feel like there's a gun to your head to make it, and then you're not making good stuff anymore. So
that's true.
Sometimes you just have to separate yourself from it all and just say, I'm going to go make this, and I'm going to go make it in my own time, and I'm not going to be on anybody's schedule, and I'm going to make it to the best of my ability. Okay, so what? I can't go to the Adirondacks, and dude, I've got a studio at my house. I've got Logic, I've got Pro Tools, I've got Luna, I've got whatever, and I've got enough to get a vibe and to turn my lights down and to make it feel good and get in the best place I can to create and see what happens. And sometimes
the vibe of a room, of being able to do the stuff with the lights, like, obviously we got these big stupid ass lights blasting us, but as you can tell, I like the colored lights. And
oh yeah, I'm ambienting it all over the place.
Yeah, it's more creative. That's, people are like, man, they're upset about it being raining and overcast. I'm like,
bro,
I love that, because can't go outside, so I'm like content to draw from that energy.
Man,
there's something beautiful about
absolutely
the gray and the
Gray
rain.
days, bro. Man, you can make some great music.
Vince Gill on that what was it, VH1 or CMT it's Crossroads.
Yeah,
who was it? Vince Gill and Sting.
Yes, I remember. Yeah,
he said he was talking about the kind of songs that he sings. He's like, I'm just drawn to melancholy, and I've never felt a description of how I like the kinds of songs that I like.
Yeah,
like from whatever genre. I'm just drawn to melancholy, whether it's a Pat Metheny song or Sugarland or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. There's something about it, and I'm not a sad guy.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It makes you feel a way.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I want to feel something.
It's like watching, a really emotional movie. It's the same thing. It's telling sometimes stories make you want to cry. Yeah. Sometimes they make you want to laugh and whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's the way that junk goes.
Yeah.
Deer and beer.
them scavengers. I'll be looking around and waiting for the right price on something. You wait long enough, somebody's going to have to let something go, and you're going to be able to be there when they're ready.
That is true. That is true. I impulse buy. When I buy, and I shouldn't say impulse buy because it sounds like it sounds like I'm splurging. What I do is I buy when I have an emotional impulse. Like if a pedal lets me down really bad on a show, that's its last day in my life. If a guitar does that, amp does that, it's going on chopping block. That's just what happened.
Well, I don't really
until I get a piece of gear that I know, dude. You just have to deal.
I'm not very good at letting stuff go.
It was a bad day. I'm at the point where I'm kind of out of things to do that with because the stuff I have now is like it's not going anywhere. So yeah, that's and I'm playing gear that doesn't let me down either. So.
Well, and you've got relationships with a bunch of companies who have a reputation for doing quality stuff, and
so if I have an issue, I actually call them now.
Well, and then that as well, but like also dealing with good stuff,
That's true. That's true. It makes a big difference.
Knowing what's going to be up your every now and again with Gain, like I've tried stuff where it's like, that sounds like a great idea.
Man.
Almost too good to be true. And then you get it and you're like, yeah, of course it doesn't work. It sounds like shit. Let's get it out of here.
Have you ever had that where it sounds great in everyone's hands but yours?
Yes.
Yeah. I've
yes.
Literally. Man, I have been that guy so many times. The DL4, the green machine. Dude, it sounded trash with me.
I never even played one just because I just hated the way it looked.
I totally hate the way, but it was in Nashville. It was on everybody's board back
everywhere. It was, and I just had a DD6.
Yeah, man. And I played a DD6 way better, but I had it. I tried it for a good year, and dude, every day I owned that thing, awful. It was awful.
That's the way it goes, man.
It was now.
Clones are that way with me. You'll never hear a clone sound good if I play it.
Now I tell you the funny thing, I love the M4 and the M5 and the M9 and that the M13.
Yeah.
I love those. But because it's the same circuit, I love those. I've got an M5 that I still love.
Man, somebody I saw recently had the 13 on their board. And I'm like, man, that is a lot of.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of real estate.
That's a whole lot. It is a board these days.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Chris Rodriguez.
He still does. Yes, he does. He's never He's never getting rid of that.
No, I know.
Yeah, that's staying forever, man. It's
that and that. What's that? Visual Sounds VS XO pedal.
Yeah. I mean, like that thing was literally like made for him, and he kills that. Dude, golly,
love that dude. He's one of my favorite people to play with.
Yeah, man, I love him too, man.
I didn't get to go to the Dallas Guitar Show this year, and he was only able to go for like one day, I think. But that's where I met him, and then I ended up moving here.
Nice.
And every now,
yeah, he doesn't know he's one of my heroes, but he totally is.
Dude, my favorite thing about Chris Rodriguez is like 3 years ago, I was, and this will lead us right into the beginning of these questions.
Perfect.
I just accident. But
segue.
Even a blind squirrel, they say.
Yeah.
There was a Megadeth record that Vinny Colaiuta played drums on.
What?
From 2005 called The System Have Failed. Yeah, and like if you know that it's Vinny, you can be like, I hear his print.
Yeah.
But if you don't know it's Vinny, it's like this is a badass drummer playing a Megadeth.
Yeah. I'm sure it's got his snare cracking.
But I was looking at the credits and background vocals credit Chris Rodriguez.
Oh yeah.
He's been singing on Dave's records for like 20 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Never would have ever thought that.
Yeah. He's like
I met him playing Tore Down. And he's singing on Megadeth records.
Yeah, he's been the pop backgrounds, the Nashville pop background singer for like for everyone since then, like probably early 90s. as well as he's playing on records, he's singing backgrounds, killing them
and
too.
playing and singing with Kenny Loggins and Cetera at the same time for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Like those are, I mean,
and Michael McDonald, like all that stuff. He's been the guy.
Kenny Loggins. I mean, you want to talk about just like a consummate gig to get as a guitar player.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you get to play parts.
Yep.
You get to play extremely fun and progressive music with one of the best performers of all time.
Yep. and like iconic tone that all guitar players go. At some point or other, I was obsessed with that sound.
Man.
Yeah, man.
Freaking Loggins, man.
Yeah, man.
Are you familiar with a video, like a 5 to 10 minute episodes video series called Yacht Rock?
Yeah.
With all the fake, they're telling fake stories about the origins of these songs.
Yeah.
I cannot
YouTube thing.
Yeah, I cannot think about Kenny Loggins without the Jim Messina laying in the loading dock all drunk and saying, "Your shitty music made me barf, Loggins." So anytime I hear Loggins, that goes through.
Loggins.
Loggins. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. But yeah, so Chris Rodriguez singing on Megadeth records. Speaking of Megadeth, Phil, it's time to enter the question zone.
Let's do it.
The first question is Metallica or Megadeth?
Metallica. Easy.
Is that easy for you?
Easy, yeah. Black record, Black album.
I mean, that's
the one that got me on. Black album, yeah. It turned me on, man. For real, no lie.
it's a freaking great record.
Yeah, Megadeth is cool, but Dave Mustaine versus come on versus Hetfield. It was Dave Mustaine's a better singer, but Hetfield.
I don't even think he's a better singer. He's just a great guitar player. Half of those solos are Dave.
Oh shoot,
Dave is a player, man.
Yeah, I just think the band. I think Metallica as a band is better. Like the individual player, like player for player in the band. Lars Ulrich could have played with a million other guys.
And people shit on him all the time, and he probably does kind of suck, but boy, was he perfect for that band.
Man, listen.
I've also heard a lot of stuff about maybe ghost drummers and stuff in the middle of the night on his gear set up like it's set up. I've heard some things, and there's no way I'll never know if it's true or it isn't true.
Hey, he sold it like it was him, man. Works for me.
Well, and he was definitely a big part of writing those tunes.
Absolutely.
Too. And they lost me eventually, but like it was a lot later than people expect. Everybody's usually like, man, first 5 records, everything after that, blah, blah.
Yeah, nah.
But I thought Load and Reload were both great.
Yeah, man.
They were great records.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with, I forget the name of the record, but it's the Cult, one of the Cult records. Just a lot of the guitar playing sounds extremely influenced, like the riffs and the way the guitars sound. I'll find it. Leteri told me about that, and I went and listened to it, and far be it from me to disagree with him, but he was actually right. I would have disagreed if I would disagree. So yeah, these are just going to be a bunch of like either or questions that are so stupid, but it's fun. So here we're having fun.
I love this.
Miles or Coltrane?
Oh, Miles, man. Even though it hurts me to say it, but it hurts because I know more Miles catalog. Miles, man.
You could argue that without Miles, there is no Coltrane.
100%, but there's definitely Miles without Coltrane.
For sure.
And here's the
50s
thing.
Miles?
Yeah, here's the thing about Miles. Miles, the different eras. Coltrane doesn't have era. Coltrane only had 2-3 eras max. Miles had, the
80s band with Foley playing lead piccolo bass.
Who is my guy now? Like me and Foley have been going back and forth, man. I love that dude, man. Does
he still live in Dallas?
He's in Columbus. He's back in Columbus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's amazing, man.
So you've presumably seen that wherever in London, Trio Foley and Chris Dave and the poor Eastern European saxophone player that got sacrificed to the music gods that night.
Listen, split open on the altar, bro.
Oh man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I felt
sir.
bad for him, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've ran into Foley and I've met him before back in Dallas 15 years ago. Never met Chris Dave. Chris Dave's playing sometimes sounds like he's just trying to make someone mad. But Foley is like, you never heard somebody. I mean, you never heard him play a single note he was not 100% convicted about.
Bruh. All the notes.
Which what is it? Is it Nefertiti where he's playing the same bass line the whole time underneath it's like an ostinato pattern, but the saxophone player's still playing the actual melody over the top.
Man.
I forget. Anyway,
he's got. But he's.
I'll
got
link
some
that 'cause
crazy,
that shit is crazy.
He's got some crazy videos on his YouTube stuff. You're like, what?
yeah, that
Him
guy,
and Miles is my lord.
man. Who was Marcus Miller playing?
No,
The other
Marcus
bass?
he got the gig because of Marcus.
Okay, so who was playing bass when he was playing piccolo bass for Miles? I can't remember.
Yeah, I forget who was playing bass.
Somebody that we've all heard of, I'm sure.
Yes.
Matheny or Schofield?
Oh, okay, Schofield. I gotta say Schofield
I get it.
because I just love everything about that dude.
10 years ago, I would have said the opposite, but I think I'm with you now.
I
love Matheny.
Okay, let me say this. I love Matheny's compositions maybe a little bit more. Well, okay. The scope of his compositions.
Yeah.
The scope of his compositions are just breathtaking. Whereas if I just want to listen to some great playing, like flat foot.
He's got that like deceptively greasy feel to his playing.
Yeah, dude. And it's like no matter what you listen to on him, he's gonna make you laugh. You're just gonna laugh. You're gonna be like, that dude just, he just took us all back. Like his playing is so whimsical and it's so many things that you strive to be one day on guitar, but he's all of them at once.
You want to talk about two guys with their own voice on the instrument.
Absolutely.
Those two.
So I love them both.
Absolutely.
But I would say Schofield.
I dig that, man. The Blue Matter and the Still Warm and the Pick Hits records.
Yeah, man.
David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
Oh, David Lee Roth, man. Yeah, I don't think Sammy Hagar would be. David Lee Roth put the blueprint down. Now,
Sure.
I think Sammy Hagar has a wider range of what he can sing, and I can take him a lot more seriously as an artist. But for what Van Halen was, because Van Halen made both of them. Come on, man.
Yeah, I see the value to both, but a lot of people are very polarized about that.
I'm not polarized.
And like Sammy Hagar's a way better singer.
Oh, without
he's got one of
question.
those weird voices where it's like he always sounds like he's singing as high as he can, and he just keeps singing higher somehow.
Yeah. He's like Bryan Adams with more,
It's like, man, you sound like a full body Charlie horse when you're singing.
It's amazing.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah,
I don't know, but Vi or Satriani?
That's a tough one.
I don't think I agree.
That's a tough one. Man.
If this were a chicken or the egg argument, I would argue that it's the chicken.
I'm gonna definitely say Vi. I'm gonna say Vi.
That's the right answer.
I'm gonna say Vi because, to be honest, when I've seen Satch play in non G3 environments.
Like that Chicken Foot band. Have you seen that with Sammy?
Yeah.
Who's that? Sammy and Chad Smith and Michael Anthony or something?
Yeah, I think so. That's the band. Yeah. When I see him in those other environments, he's okay to me. But every time I see Vi, I'm like, nah, Vi is Vi. Vi, he's like a god wherever he plays. Even if he's a god out of place.
Sure.
He's just, I don't care. This is how I play, and I'm going to stand flat-footed and be that dude no matter what. When I see, man, I'm going to get in trouble. But when I see Satch play sometimes, I can see him thinking. And it's like,
Steve Vai plays from his soul. And like you said, sometimes it's out of place, but it sounds like him. And it's authentic.
He doesn't care.
He's
going to play him. And it's like, dude, that's the spirit of like the guitar gods. That's the thing that we all want.
I feel like his music is way better too.
And it feels like it's more authentic. He doesn't
I'm sure
feel like
Joe Satriani is very disappointed in hearing that out of my mouth, except for he's probably crying all the way to the bank and he's never heard of it.
I just think I mean, to me, Steve Vai doesn't seem like he's chasing something.
Well, I mean, technically we have Joe Satriani to thank for Steve Vai.
That's true.
And Kirk Hammett.
Yeah.
So thanks, Joe. Yeah. Dolly or Reba? We're in Nashville.
Dolly, dude. I'm sorry.
That's the right answer.
I'm sorry. Dolly is
I love Reba, but that's the right answer.
Yo, Dolly bad she's so freaking bad. Yo, Dolly's so funky.
Dude, some of those tunes are bad to the bone.
Yo, Dolly is no joke.
You'll get no argument from me.
I mean, like, that's not even close to me.
It's really not. But the only person that could come close is probably Reba.
I mean, yeah, you know.
At least right now.
To me, that's living.
Just somebody that's had a career span and that, like, is a person with depth and not just like a flash in the pan like so many country artists seem to be.
Yeah,
even if that flash is
June
8
Cash,
years.
you know.
Yeah.
That's to me, Patsy Cline. Those are the people that I would have to put up against a Dolly, and they've been going forever.
Patsy Cline didn't have the career arc like Reba did.
No. I'm just saying, like, the imprint of historically. I'm just saying in history.
Yeah.
Like, but Dolly's still going.
Yeah.
She's ridiculous, man. Like, Dolly, man. No.
You're right. Yngwie or James Burton?
Oh, come on, man. James Burton. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, so this is a question that I'm asking in jest because there's no comparison in the way that they play guitar, but they are both notorious assholes.
I know that.
So it's a
it's
a little jest from me, but
nice.
I actually saw a video of Yngwie the other day, and I was like, "Golly, that dude is bad to the bone."
Yeah, he is.
It's one thing, and he does the shit out of that thing, but it's one thing.
Sure, yeah.
John Petrucci or Paul Gilbert?
Whoa, that's a good one.
That's a
toughie right there.
Couple of virtuosic players.
Yikes, that's a hard one. Okay. Oh man, this is nerdery.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, man.
This is a podcast dedicated to nerdery.
Yes. Okay, dude. Paul Gilbert or John Petrucci? Okay. All right. I got to be honest.
Be honest.
I'm going if I was never asked this question and you just look at my search history, it's going to say Paul Gilbert. Petrucci had a era in my life,
as he does for all guitar players. It seems like
He had it. He had an era. I'm not going to say I outgrew that era. I just learned what I wanted to learn from it. And it was like, oh, I don't need to go any further in this era or I'm going to begin to sound like him or everyone else that listens to him constantly.
Yeah.
Whereas Paul Gilbert is more of, you can take these tools all the time. I mean, dude, every time I watch Paul Gilbert play, I learn something. Every time I watch that dude play. Like, whether it be, I'm still trying to play the slapback and reverb like he has. And it's, like, awesome. That dude, the way he plays things on his guitar.
What's that one song?
Super good, man.
Curse of the Castle Dragon or something like that?
Yeah.
That was whatever that record is, maybe. I don't know what's
You
going
talking
on.
about Mr. Big or just him?
No, it was a
His record.
solo record.
Yeah.
I forget what the record's called, but there's a song on there called Curse of the Castle Dragon, and it was some it was like, if I don't even love this song all that much, but if I could play it, I would be a better guitar player than I am right now. It's like and I forgot. I can't even think of how it goes.
He
right
just,
now. He's a freak.
Yeah, I admire him for sure.
This next question I always ask, but it is totally a typo, and the question is Geddy Lee or Geddy Lee? Answer's Geddy Lee. Jazz or metal?
Oh, yeah, I'm jazz, man. Come on.
That's where I'm at. A lot of people go metal.
Yeah.
Hot or cold?
And life? Oh, you mean like living in the hot or the cold?
I don't mean anything. I mean hot or cold.
I'm a hot guy. Give me heat.
You can have it. Live or session?
That's a super tough one because I love what they both give you. And I'm sorry, that one is I hold them in such high esteem for totally different reasons.
That's the point of the question.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to pick, but you have to.
Jeez.
Fortunately, you'll never have to actually.
What about live session?
I'll accept that.
I'm doing that.
Single coil or humbucker?
Unfortunately, jeez. Man, I want to say humbucker, but I'm not being honest because I end up playing single coil so much more. As much as I love humbuckers,
Yeah.
I just express more with single coils. It just always happens to me. Either whether it be a P90 or my Tele or my Strat, I end up always going to it.
You could argue that P90 has humbucker-ish qualities. It's a good compromise.
Yeah, but I end up stratting quite a bit.
I
do.
love a good strat tone.
I do. I end up stratting. I fall for it really bad. Yeah.
I don't see it on this board other than probably in the H9, but do you use compression live in any situations?
Not anymore. I used to compress, but I realized, I use that for the same thing a compressor would. I use a compressor for bloom. So it's more of a boost bloom thing for me. I'm like, so I don't really need it. But I do have it in the H90 when there are certain songs, because a lot of the modern pop thing uses that super compressed guitar sound. So I use it when it calls for a song. Sure. But otherwise, on my own, never. Yeah.
I get that. I get you. Jazz or precision? That's a bass question.
Ooh, yeah. Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna say P bass. That a lot of people would say the otherwise.
Not in this town.
Man, dude, the P bass.
I think there's been maybe 4 votes for jazz bass.
It is the
Your episode 49.
It is the most iconic sound, and jazz has got a great thing. But, bruh, that P bass, the way it warms your heart, man, it's Motown. It's Willie Weeks. It's all the different things I love, man. It's Pino. It's, man.
Excuse me. My main bass is a P bass.
Yeah, when I play bass, I've got a JP. I've got a PJ bass, and I'm always playing on the P pickup.
My 5-string is jazz, but I bought a 65 P LP that had been refinished in the 70s off of a buddy for a steal when I moved to town like 10 years ago, I guess, almost. And it's just one of those instruments where it's just like,
Yeah, man.
oh.
Yeah, I never hear a jazz bass that sounds like a bell, but I sure do know some P basses that do.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Got a favorite pedal?
All around, like, I might have to say that it's going to be a toss up between the H90 and that third power, man.
What's the name of that third power again?
The Love Drive, because it can
Drive.
do so much stuff, man, and it's so simple, but it does a lot.
That's fair. What's your favorite artist to listen to?
Oh, man, you know what?
This is one of those things I kind of like. You might tell me a different answer tomorrow. That's kind of the answer I'm looking for. Top of your brain.
Yeah, top of my brain. Jeez. I'm going to be so mad at myself because I'm going to say it. Mayer. He's let me down a lot lately, but
Really?
it might be Mayer because I can like, I'm not gonna be mad if a Mayer record comes on ever. I'm just like,
Yeah, me either. I love it.
yeah. I love the way he sings. I love the way he writes. I love the way he plays. His tones always sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to go with Mayer. Anybody else, I'm splitting other things to enjoy it. But Mayer, yeah, man, he doesn't let me down to listen to. He doesn't let me down.
That's a great choice. Yeah. What artist, alive or dead, would you love to play with if you had the opportunity to play with anyone?
Miles.
It's a pretty good answer.
Head up. That's straight up Miles, without question.
What's your favorite thing to do outside of music?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
For me, it's easy. It's the only other thing I do, which is cooking.
Oh, I was gonna say have sex, but
No, that's fun too. That is fun too.
have sex, but no. Cook. I probably make way more music than I get to. Yeah. Music. Outside music. Man. Man, I like to work out a bit, man. It's because I get a lot of parallels. Cooking is up there too. I know I gave you way too many answers, but
whatever. It's your podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about being a musician?
Man, the way that you can draw analogies to life from so many different things. Cooking, sports, relationships, chemistries. You can draw all these relationships because of music. Music is the way people blend, the way foods work together, the way you're waiting for that big moment. A gun to your head. You gotta knock it out right. All those things happen in music, living on the tip of the spear, living by your instincts, knowing when to shut up, knowing when to speak, being able to discern people's personalities and characters. Because of music, it's like all those things you can, it's like it's hard.
Very representative of the individual.
Yeah. It's a lot of things that and at the end of the day, when we're on stage or when we're playing, it really is a meritocracy. Regardless of what happens before you get there, when you're on stage, people know. It's like I heard Chael Sonnen, the MMA, he's a retired fighter. He said back in the gym, he said all the fighters know who that real bad dude is. And like they know if they're gonna fight, they know who that guy is. Like everybody they might say all kind of stuff at the press conference. They, it might be somebody in another weight class. They were talking all this kind of stuff, but in the locker room, they know. And it's like that with music too. Like people can talk about all this, I went here and I've got this degree and I've done that and I've practiced this and the other. What are your scales? When we get to playing, people know.
In the moment, you either can or you can't.
You go like, oh, okay. And that I love that about music, because for those minutes that we're all playing,
pulls back the curtain.
Yeah, you really know who's got it and who don't.
Yeah.
It's just I love that about music, because it's the high level of it, whether it shows or not. It's like you feel it, and it may not be something the audience knows, but the players on stage, if you really play, you like, oh no, they the real deal. And like 3 or 4 measures, you're like, oh shoot, okay.
And that kind of a realization on stage will influence the way you play, and
100%.
It can elevate or drag down the whole experience.
Yeah. You think somebody was really amazing, and you go to hear them, you go like, oh no, they've been propped up all this time, and now you're like,
oh, I just can't wait for this to be over.
Yes, dude. And then there's the other guy, and you go like, whoa, they were the secret sauce to blah 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 blah, and
then the gig's over, and you're like, oh man,
yeah. I'll just like all that stuff. Yeah.
All right, so camera's about to cut off, so I got one question left. I'm gonna skip a couple, but. This is the stupidest question that you'll ever be asked. This question is called the King's Court, and you have to choose between all kings.
Oh, shit.
Albert, BB, Freddie, Ed, Carol, Earl, or King's X. You have to pick one for all time.
Albert.
That's a great choice. You heard it here first. My man, Gtar Phil. Appreciate you, dude.
Thank you, man.
I'll be linking his music and his Instagram and all his socials and stuff will be in the show notes as usual. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, comment. Tell us how awesome you think Phil is, because the answer is very awesome. Phil, appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Rob, man. Thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
Next time on Gear and Beer. Hey, thanks for listening to the Gear and Beer podcast. We would ask that you please be sure to tell your friends about the podcast. And if you haven't already, subscribe and follow our Instagram and YouTube channels, as well as liking and commenting on our posts. Are there guests you want to see on the podcast? Topics you want us to talk about, or pieces of gear? Let us know. All these kinds of things feed the algorithms in a positive way and help us gain more traction, whereby enabling us to continue to bring you ever-improving content and guests. Thanks again, Gearheads. We truly appreciate your support, and we'll see you back here soon for another episode of